I slaved away for 7 years, bringing in 52% of my company's revenue, while my boss took credit for my work. Then that snake fired me, calling me a pathetic failure in front of everyone. As security dragged me out like a criminal, while my coworkers watched in horror, my wife called crying because we'd just lost our health insurance the same week she was diagnosed. How could they destroy everything I'd built when the real failure was sitting in the CEO's office? My phone buzzed with the notification I'd been waiting months for. The email subject line glowed on my screen. Senior VP position, final decision today. 7 years of grinding, working weekends, and missing family dinners had led to this moment. I'd carried half the company's revenue on my back, and finally, the recognition I deserved was within reach. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt different that morning. My reflection in the polished steel doors showed a man ready for the corner office, but something twisted in my gut when the doors opened. The executive floor was too quiet. Where was the usual morning bustle? My footsteps echoed on the marble as I passed empty offices, each dark doorway adding weight to the silence. Then I heard Gerald's voice booming from the conference room. My supervisor's laugh cut through the air like breaking glass, followed by the sycophantic chuckles of the department heads. They were having the promotion meeting without me. My hand froze on the door handle as Gerald's words reached my ears clearly through the gap. Thompson thinks he's getting this position because of his sales numbers. The fool doesn't understand that leadership requires more than spreadsheets. Besides, I've already made arrangements. My nephew Ryan will be perfect for senior VP. We'll announce Thompson's termination this afternoon. Blood roared in my ears. Ryan had been with the company 6 months and couldn't close a deal if his life depended on it. But he was family to Gerald, and in this company, that trumped everything. My hand moved to my pocket, fingers finding my phone. Without thinking, I hit record and slipped it back, the microphone facing the door. What about the revenue issue? Someone asked. Thompson brings in 52%. The board will ask questions if we fire him. Gerald's response made my skin crawl. I've been adjusting the reports for months. By next week, the records will show Ryan as our top performer. Thompson's numbers will reflect his actual failure as a salesman. Creative accounting, gentlemen, the cornerstone of modern business. My chest tightened. 7 years of my work, my relationships with clients, my innovations that saved 3 major accounts from walking away, all of it would be erased and handed to a kid who spent more time on golf courses than in client meetings. The recording continued as they discussed fabricating performance reviews, creating a paper trail of my supposed incompetence. The termination letter is already drafted, Gerald continued. Security will escort him out before lunch. Make sure his access badges are deactivated by noon. I don't want him anywhere near his computer or client files. The door suddenly swung open, and I found myself face to face with Gerald. His expression shifted from surprise to smug satisfaction in seconds. Ah, Thompson. Eavesdropping now? Add that to your list of failures. The room fell silent. 8 executives stared at me while Gerald's lips curled into that familiar sneer I'd endured for years. Ryan sat in what should have been my chair, already wearing the gold senior VP pin on his lapel. The promotion announcement email on the projection screen had his name, not mine. Gentlemen, Gerald announced, his voice dripping with false concern, I believe we've just witnessed why Mr. Thompson is unsuitable for senior leadership. Lurking outside meetings, displaying paranoid behavior. It's fortunate we made the right decision. I kept my face neutral, my phone still recording in my pocket. I was invited to this meeting, Gerald. The email said 9 sharp. Did it? His eyebrows rose in mock surprise. Must have been a system error, like many of your recent reports actually. We've discovered some concerning discrepancies in your client accounts. The other executives shifted uncomfortably. Some knew the truth but were too deep in Gerald's pocket to speak up. Others genuinely believed his lies. I recognized the setup, now public humiliation followed by immediate termination. Classic Gerald. Speaking of discrepancies, I said calmly, I'd like to discuss the Johnson Industries contract, the one I closed last month for $12 million. Interesting how the internal credits now show Ryan's name. Gerald's face reddened. Security, he barked into his phone. Executive conference room. Now. 2 guards appeared within minutes, their hands resting on their belts like I was some kind of threat. The other executives avoided eye contact as Gerald stood, pulling a manila folder from his briefcase. The termination letter. I'd seen this play before with 3 other top performers who'd threatened Gerald's power. Mr. Thompson, your services are no longer required at Sterling Dynamics. These gentlemen will escort you to your desk. You have 15 minutes to collect your personal items. The walk to my office felt like a funeral procession. Colleagues peered over cubicle walls, whispering as security flanked me like a criminal. Some looked shocked. Others seemed to have known this was coming. Gerald had probably been spreading rumors for weeks, poisoning opinions against me. At my desk, I found cardboard boxes already waiting. Pre-planned humiliation. As I packed 7 years into those boxes, my phone vibrated. A text from James in accounting. Check your email. Urgent. They're changing all your client records right now. My hands shook as I opened my laptop one last time, quickly forwarding crucial emails to my personal account before they cut my access. The evidence was all their original contracts, with my name, email threads proving my relationship with clients, the real sales figures before Gerald's tampering. Time's up, one guard announced. But I'd gotten what I needed. As they marched me toward the elevator, past the wall displaying top salespeople of the month, I saw maintenance already removing my photo from the #1 spot. Ryan's picture was ready to replace it. The elevator doors closed on my Sterling Dynamics career, but my phone still recorded everything. Gerald thought he'd won, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated how much evidence I'd been quietly collecting for months, waiting for him to finally overstep. The real game was just beginning. The parking garage felt like a tomb as security watched me load boxes into my car. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing, clients asking why their emails bounced back, colleagues expressing shock, and 3 missed calls from my wife. The weight of explaining this disaster to Sarah made my hands shake as I started the engine. But the 4th call changed everything. Patricia Williams, our CFO, rarely contacted anyone directly. Her voice was barely a whisper. Don't go home. Meet me at the Riverside Cafe in 20 minutes. They're watching your house. The drive there blurred past in a haze of confusion and growing paranoia. Who was watching my house? Why would they care about a fired salesman? The recording on my phone suddenly felt like a bomb in my pocket. I'd stumbled into something bigger than a simple case of nepotism. Patricia sat in the corner booth, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and her hands trembled around her coffee cup. She slid a thick envelope across the table before I could speak. Read these at home, memorize them, then burn them, she said. Gerard isn't just stealing credit and promotions. He's selling the entire company to our competitors. The board doesn't know. Marcus doesn't know. Everyone who's figured it out has been eliminated. My coffee turned cold as she explained Project Phoenix. For 18 months, Gerald had been systematically destroying Sterling Dynamics from within. Top performers fired on fabricated charges. Client relationships sabotaged, financial records altered, all to tank the company's value before Chen Industries swooped in for a hostile takeover. But why would he destroy his own position? I asked. Patricia's laugh was bitter. Chen Industries promised him CEO of their entire North American division. $30 million signing bonus. All he has to do is deliver Sterling Dynamics on a silver platter, gutted and ready for acquisition. The pieces clicked together. Every strange decision, every unexplained firing, every mysterious client loss. Gerald had orchestrated all of it. And now I was the latest casualty, removed because my success threatened his narrative of a failing company. I have proof, I told her, pulling out my phone. I recorded this morning's meeting. He admitted to falsifying records, planning to frame me. Patricia's eyes widened. That's more than I've been able to gather. We might actually have a chance to stop this. She explained her plan. 3 board members remained: Clean Sophia Martinez, David Chen, no relation to Chen Industries, and Michael Roberts. If we could reach them with evidence before the emergency board meeting in 3 days, we could expose Gerald's conspiracy. There's one problem, Patricia added. Gerald has a judge in his pocket. By tomorrow morning, there will be a warrant for your arrest. Embezzlement charges based on the falsified records. You'll need to work fast. We parted ways after establishing secure communication. The weight of the situation crushed down on me as I drove home, constantly checking mirrors for surveillance. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but something felt wrong. Our front door stood slightly ajar. Inside, chaos. Drawers emptied, papers scattered, my home office ransacked. Sarah sat on the couch, tears streaming down her face, holding our daughter Emma. Two men in suits stood guard, badges hanging from their necks. "Mr. Thompson," the taller one said, "we're with Sterling Dynamics Security Division. We're conducting an internal investigation into missing funds from your department." They had no legal right to search my home, but they'd intimidated Sarah into compliance. I kept my voice steady, mindful of Emma's frightened eyes. "I'll need to see a warrant." "This is a courtesy visit," he replied. "Cooperate now, and things go easier when the real investigators arrive tomorrow." They left after finding nothing, but their message was clear. Gerald was moving fast, using every resource to discredit me before I could expose him. That night, after Sarah took Emma to her mother's house for safety, I sat in my destroyed office, studying Patricia's documents. The conspiracy went deeper than she'd revealed. Gerald had connections in law enforcement, media contacts ready to spin the story, and a network of corrupt employees feeding him information. But he'd made mistakes. The paper trail existed if you knew where to look. My laptop pinged with an encrypted message from James. "They're doctoring the surveillance footage from this morning, making it look like you threatened Gerald. You need to disappear until we can prove the truth." Disappear, like I was some criminal on the run. The rage that had simmered all day exploded. I'd given everything to this company, built relationships that generated millions in revenue, mentored junior staff, innovated processes that became industry standards. And now I was being erased like a clerical error. Another message popped up, this one from an unknown sender. "Thompson, I know you're innocent. Meet tomorrow at the old Sterling warehouse, Building 7, midnight. Come alone. A friend." It screamed trap. But what choice did I have? The walls were closing in, and anonymous friends were better than visible enemies. I spent the rest of the night backing up evidence to multiple cloud servers, sending encrypted files to Patricia, and preparing for whatever waited at that warehouse. The local news ran the story at 11. Sterling Dynamics executive accused of $1 million embezzlement. My corporate headshot filled the screen beside fabricated bank records. Gerald had given an interview, playing the shocked and disappointed supervisor who trusted too much. "We discovered discrepancies going back years," he told the camera. "It's heartbreaking when someone you mentored betrays that trust. We're cooperating fully with authorities to recover stolen funds." The reporter bought every word. Tomorrow's headlines would cement my guilt in public opinion before I could mount any defense. My phone rang enlisted number. "You should have taken the severance package." Gerald's voice oozed through the speaker. "Now, you'll be lucky to avoid prison. Drop whatever evidence you think you have. Disappear quietly, or your family pays the price." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands steady now with cold determination. He'd threatened Sarah and Emma. That changed everything. This wasn't about my career anymore. Gerald had escalated to a war, and I intended to win it. Before sunrise, I would know who waited at that warehouse and what they wanted. The recording from this morning's meeting sat safely in 3 separate secure locations. Patricia had her evidence, I had mine, and somewhere in Sterling Dynamics, other voices waited to speak truth. Gerald thought he'd destroyed me with a pink slip and false accusations. He was about to learn that some men become more dangerous when they have nothing left to lose. The real fight started now. Gerald cornered me in the parking garage 3 days after my termination. His cologne so strong it made my eyes water as he leaned against my car door. "Still playing detective? You should know Patricia tried that too." His smile made my skin crawl. Shame about her brakes failing on that rainy night. My hands shook as I gripped my keys tighter, but I kept my voice steady. "The FBI might be interested in hearing you basically confess to murder." I pulled out my phone, showing him it was recording. "Thanks for the evidence." His face turned purple with rage. He lunged forward, knocking the phone from my hand. It shattered against the concrete. "You think you're smart? I've destroyed bigger threats than you." By next week, you'll be in prison for embezzlement, and no one will believe a word you say." That night, Sophia called me from a burner phone. We met at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town, where truckers ate pancakes and minded their own business. She slid a laptop across the sticky table, her hands trembling. I found Patricia's real files. She'd been documenting everything for months. "Look at this." The screen showed email threads between Gerald and 3 board members, discussing how to frame employees and sell company secrets to Chen Industries. Patricia had discovered their plan to gut Sterling Dynamics and sell it piece by piece, keeping millions for themselves while 300 employees lost their jobs. She'd scheduled a meeting with the FBI the day before her death. "There's more," Sophia whispered, glancing around the empty diner. "Gerald's been drugging Marcus, small doses of medication that cause confusion and memory loss. That's why Marcus believed all of Gerald's lies about you. I found the prescription bottles in Gerald's desk, prescribed under a fake name." My coffee turned cold as I read through Patricia's evidence. Employee after employee had been fired or forced to quit, all top performers who might have questioned the company's direction. Gerald had built a network of fear and lies, and anyone who got close to the truth disappeared. "We need to get this to the FBI," I said, but Sophia shook her head. "Gerald has connections everywhere. The local police, some federal agents." Patricia learned that the hard way. She pulled out a business card. "But I know one clean agent, Sarah Mitchell. She's been investigating Chen Industries for years." The next morning, I met Agent Mitchell at a small coffee shop downtown. She was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes that seemed to see through walls. I showed her everything: Patricia's files, the email threads, Gerald's threats in the parking garage. "We've been watching Gerald Reeves for months," she said quietly. "But we needed someone on the inside to break this open. Patricia was going to be our witness." She looked at me carefully. "Now it has to be you." She explained their plan. The board meeting was in 4 days. If Gerald's people pushed through the sale to Chen Industries, the evidence would disappear, buried under international corporate law. We had to stop the sale and expose the conspiracy at the same time. "But there's a problem," Mitchell continued. "Gerald's already filed charges against you. There's a warrant for your arrest. If you're in custody during the board meeting, we lose our chance." I felt the walls closing in. "So what do I do? Run? Hide?" "We're going to let them arrest you." Her smile was sharp as a knife. "But first, we're going to make sure the right people know the truth." That afternoon, James helped me set up a secret meeting with 5 loyal board members at his house. We showed them everything: the evidence of Gerald's conspiracy, Patricia's murder, the plan to destroy Sterling Dynamics. Their faces went from skepticism to horror as they realized how deep the corruption went. "We can delay the vote," said Mrs. Chen, no relation to Chen Industries, the longest-serving board member, "but only by a few days. And if you're in jail." "I won't be," I promised, though I had no idea how I'd keep that promise. That night, Maya called me, crying. "They're making me destroy files. Gerald says if I don't, they'll frame my brother for stealing company property. He's only 19. He just started college." I met her at her apartment, where she showed me what Gerald wanted destroyed: employee records, financial documents, anything that could prove the company's real value. Instead of destroying them, we scanned everything, creating digital copies stored on encrypted drives. "I'm scared," Maya admitted. "People who cross Gerald don't just lose their jobs, they lose everything. Sometimes they lose their lives." I hugged her, feeling her shake with fear. "Not this time. This time, Gerald's going down." The next morning, police surrounded my apartment building. I watched from my window as Gerald stood next to the lead detective, pointing up at my floor. They were coming for me, just as Agent Mitchell predicted. I had 2 choices: surrender and trust Mitchell's plan, or run and become the criminal Gerald claimed I was. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Trust the process, we're watching." I opened my apartment door just as the police reached my floor. "I've been expecting you," I said, hands raised. As they read my rights and cuffed my hands, I saw Gerald's satisfied smile from the hallway. But he didn't see James filming everything from the stairwell, or know that Agent Mitchell was already executing search warrants at his home and office. The trap was set. Now I just had to survive long enough to spring it. As they led me away, I caught Gerald's eye one last time. "See you at the board meeting," I said. His smile faltered, just for a second. He was starting to realize something was wrong, but it was too late to stop what we'd set in motion. The real battle was about to begin, and this time, I wasn't fighting alone. The holding cell reeked of bleach and despair. I sat on the cold metal bench, counting the hours until the board meeting while my lawyer, David Kim, worked frantically to get me released. Through the bars, I could see Gerald's influence everywhere, from the guards who whispered about the corporate thief to the detective who kept losing my paperwork. "Your bail hearing isn't until tomorrow afternoon," David told me during our brief meeting. "That's 12 hours after the board meeting starts." Gerald planned this perfectly. But Agent Mitchell had planned better. That night, a different guard appeared at my cell. "You have a visitor," he said, leading me to an interrogation room where James waited with a laptop and a grim expression. "Gerald's moving faster than we thought," James said, turning the screen toward me. "He's called an emergency session tonight. The vote happens in 3 hours, not tomorrow. He's telling everyone you're a flight risk, that they need to protect the company immediately." My heart sank. All our planning, all our evidence, useless if I couldn't be there to present it. "We're finished." "Not yet." James pulled out his phone. "Maya discovered something. Gerald's been using the company's own security system to spy on everyone. Every camera, every microphone in the building. She found recordings going back 2 years. He played a video. Gerald in his office with the 3 corrupt board members, laughing about Patricia's death. The brake fluid was genius," Gerald said on the recording. "Everyone bought the accident story, even that fool Marcus." Another video showed Gerald switching Marcus's medication bottles, replacing his heart medicine with the confusion-causing drugs. 6 more months of this, and he'll be completely dependent on me. Then we push him out and take everything. "This is it," I said. "This proves everything. But how do we get it to the board if I'm stuck here?" James smiled for the first time in days. "We don't. We get it to someone better." An hour later, Agent Mitchell arrived with a federal judge and a court order. "Based on new evidence of attempted murder and corporate espionage, you're being released into federal custody as a protected witness." She turned to the local police. "And you're all under investigation for accepting bribes from Gerald Reeves." The detective who'd been delaying my paperwork went pale. I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" Mitchell held up a bank statement. "Then explain the $50,000 Gerald transferred to your account last week." "Free, but under federal protection. I had less than 2 hours before the emergency board meeting. We raced across town in Mitchell's vehicle, James beside me with all our evidence loaded onto multiple devices. Gerald doesn't know we have the security footage," Mitchell explained as she drove. "He thinks he deleted it all, but Maya saved copies before he could. Your IT department has been working with us for weeks." At Sterling Dynamics, the building buzzed with tension. Employees clustered in nervous groups, whispering about the emergency meeting and my arrest. Gerald stood at the entrance, surrounded by his paid security team, confident in his victory. His face went white when he saw me approach with federal agents. "You're supposed to be in jail." "Change of plans," I said, walking past him. "Your friends at the police station are a bit busy right now. Something about federal corruption charges." Inside the boardroom, 11 directors sat around the polished table, Marcus at the head, looking confused and frail. Gerald's 3 allies immediately stood up. "This criminal shouldn't be here," one shouted. "He's out on bail." "Actually," Agent Mitchell announced, "he's here as a federal witness in our investigation of Gerald Reeves for murder, fraud, and corporate espionage." The room erupted in chaos. Gerald tried to leave, but 2 agents blocked the door. "Sit down, Mr. Reeves. You'll want to see this." James connected his laptop to the main screen. "Before we vote on anything, the board needs to see what's really been happening at Sterling Dynamics." We played the security footage. Gerald's confession about Patricia's murder, him drugging Marcus, the 3 board members discussing their payoffs from Chen Industries. With each video, the room grew quieter, faces shifting from confusion to horror. Marcus watched himself being poisoned, his hands shaking. My heart medication. That's why I've been so confused. You've been slowly killing me. Lies! Gerald shouted, but his voice cracked with fear. This is all fabricated. Is it? I pulled out Patricia's original autopsy report. The medical examiner found brake fluid in her system. She was poisoned before her car was sabotaged. You wanted to make sure she couldn't survive the crash. One of Gerald's allied board members tried to run, but federal agents were already at every exit. The game was over, and everyone knew it. There's more, Sophia announced, entering with boxes of documents. Patricia wasn't just collecting evidence. She was in contact with Chen Industries, pretending to cooperate while documenting their entire network. We have names, dates, bank accounts, everything. The honest board members looked sick. Mrs. Chen stood up, her voice shaking with rage. We trusted you, Gerald. You've destroyed lives, murdered Patricia, poisoned Marcus. For what? Money? Gerald's mask finally cracked completely. You sanctimonious fools. This company was dying. I was saving it. The old ways don't work anymore. Saving it? I stepped forward, holding up the real financial reports. By selling it piece by piece? By firing everyone who actually made it profitable? I brought in 52% of revenue, while you plotted its destruction. Agent Mitchell nodded to her team. Gerald Reeves, you're under arrest for murder, attempted murder, corporate fraud, and conspiracy. As they cuffed him, she turned to his 3 allies. You're all coming with us. The boardroom fell silent except for the sound of handcuffs clicking shut. Marcus, looking clearer than he had in months despite everything, stood up slowly. I owe you an apology, he said to me. And my resignation. This company needs leadership that wasn't blind to corruption happening under its nose. But the remaining board members had other ideas. We need someone who understands this company's real value. Mrs. Chen said. Someone who fought to save it even when everything was against them. They all turned to look at me, and I realized my fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. But this time, I'd be fighting from the right side of the desk. As they led Gerald away, he looked back one last time. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. His words hung in the air like a threat, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever came next, I'd face it with the truth on my side, and 300 employees counting on me to rebuild what he'd tried to destroy. The vote was unanimous. The sale to Chen Industries was dead, and I was Sterling Dynamics' new interim CEO. My first official act? Rehiring every employee Gerald had wrongfully terminated. Justice had won, but the real work of healing our company was just beginning. The boardroom doors burst open at exactly 6:47 a.m. Marcus jumped in his chair, spilling coffee across the mahogany table. The other board members turned to stare as I walked in, flanked by 2 FBI agents, with Sophia and James close behind. Their faces showed everything from shock to fear to confusion. You can't be here, Marcus stammered, dabbing at his ruined shirt with a napkin. Security should have stopped you. You're a criminal. Gerald's 3 puppet directors immediately stood up, trying to look intimidating. Richard Paulson, the one who'd pushed hardest for the emergency vote, pointed a shaking finger at me. This man is under investigation for embezzlement. He has no right to interrupt official board business. The FBI agent on my left, Agent Sarah Mitchell, stepped forward and showed her badge. Actually, Mr. Paulson, we're here investigating something much bigger than embezzlement charges that mysteriously appeared overnight. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each board member. We're investigating corporate espionage, murder, and a conspiracy that goes to the very heart of this company. Marcus's face went pale. He gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. Murder? What are you talking about? And why haven't I been informed about any FBI investigation? Sophia moved to the presentation screen at the front of the room. Because, Marcus, you've been fed lies for months. We're about to show you the truth about what's really happening at Sterling Dynamics. She plugged in a laptop and pulled up the first slide. But first, I think everyone should hear what Gerald Reeves had to say when he thought no one was recording. James hit play on his phone, connected to the room's speaker system. Gerald's voice filled the space, clear and damning. That idiot Marcus believes everything I tell him. Frame someone for embezzlement? Easy. Just need the right bank records, the right timing. Patricia got too close to the truth about Project Phoenix, so we had to eliminate her. Made it look like an accident. No one suspected a thing. And now, with our Golden Boy sales champion out of the way, nothing can stop the takeover. Several board members gasped. Martha Hendricks, the longest-serving director, stood up slowly. Are you saying Patricia Williams was murdered? She was my friend for 20 years. Agent Mitchell nodded grimly. The original autopsy was falsified. We exhumed the body last night. Preliminary tests show high levels of potassium chloride in her system. It's a drug that mimics heart attack symptoms. Richard Paulson tried to regain control of the situation. This is ridiculous. That recording could be fake. Anyone can manipulate audio these days. We need to proceed with the vote on restructuring the company before more damage is done. But I was ready for this. Maya had entered quietly through a side door, wheeling in several boxes of documents. Mr. Paulson, would you like to explain why your personal offshore account received $3 million from Chen Industries last month? I held up a bank statement with the transfer clearly highlighted. The same Chen Industries that stands to benefit most from Sterling Dynamics being broken up and sold? The room erupted in angry voices. Board members shouted questions and accusations. Marcus slammed his hand on the table, demanding silence. When the noise died down, he turned to me, his face a mixture of confusion and growing anger. Explain everything, from the beginning, and it better be good, because right now I don't know what to believe. Sophia clicked to the next slide, showing a complex web of connections between Gerald, the 3 compromised board members, and various offshore companies. 6 months ago, Gerald Reeves began orchestrating a hostile takeover of Sterling Dynamics. He couldn't do it alone, so he recruited help. She pointed to each name on the screen: Richard Paulson, David Kim, and Margaret Foster. Each received substantial payments to support Gerald's plan. Margaret Foster, who had been silent until now, suddenly stood up. This is character assassination. I've served this company faithfully for 15 years. Have you? I asked, pulling out another document. Then why did you authorize the transfer of our key client database to an external server last month? A server that happens to be owned by a subsidiary of Chen Industries. James stepped forward with his laptop. I've been tracking unusual activity in our systems for months. Someone has been systematically copying our proprietary information, altering financial records, and creating false paper trails. He pulled up screen after screen of evidence. Every single breach traces back to access codes belonging to these 3 board members. The room fell silent as the weight of the evidence sank in. Marcus looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He turned to Gerald's allies, his voice barely controlled. Is this true? Have you been selling out our company? David Kim cracked first. They promised us positions in the new company. Gerald said you were too weak to lead, that Sterling Dynamics needed fresh blood. He said no one would get hurt. No one would get hurt? Martha Hendricks' voice shook with rage. Patricia is dead. This young man, she gestured to me, lost his livelihood based on fabricated charges. Hundreds of employees would have lost their jobs if this takeover succeeded. Agent Mitchell stepped forward again. Mr. Kim, anything you say can be used against you in court. I suggest you contact your lawyer. But Kim was beyond caring. The guilt and fear poured out of him in a flood of words. Gerald planned everything. He picked targets, people who could expose the plan or stand in its way. Patricia found discrepancies in the books. She had to be eliminated. But him, he pointed at me. He was different. Gerald couldn't just kill the top salesperson without raising suspicions, so he destroyed his reputation instead. Richard Paulson made one last desperate attempt. You can't prove any of this will hold up in court. It's all circumstantial. That's when Maya played her final card. She wheeled in a small safe and set it on the table. Mr. Paulson, do you recognize this safe? It was in Gerald's office. We found it last night. She opened it and pulled out stack after stack of documents. contracts with Chen Industries, detailed plans for dismantling Sterling Dynamics, instructions for framing employees, and this, she held up a small glass vial, potassium chloride, the same substance that killed Patricia Williams. The FBI agents moved in, handcuffs ready. Richard Paulson, David Kim, Margaret Foster, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, fraud, and accessory to murder. As they were led away, Margaret Foster turned back to the room. You don't understand. The company was failing. We were trying to save what we could. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Failing? I brought in 52% of revenue last quarter. Our profits were up 30% year over year. The only thing failing was your moral compass. Marcus finally found his voice. I've been such a fool. Gerald showed me reports, charts, all indicating you were skimming money, inflating your numbers. He looked at me with genuine remorse. I'm sorry. I should have investigated properly, instead of taking his word. Sophia clicked to another slide. The real financial records tell a different story. The screen showed graph after graph of stellar performance. Our protagonist here didn't just bring in half our revenue. He pioneered 3 new service lines that opened entirely new markets. He mentored junior salespeople who now contribute another 20% of our income. He saved us from bankruptcy 2 years ago when the Henderson Industries deal fell through. Martha Hendricks shook her head in amazement. And we almost let Gerald destroy him. We nearly handed our company over to vultures because we didn't do our due diligence. The remaining board members started discussing rapidly. Emergency protocols, damage control, leadership changes. Marcus stood up slowly, looking every bit his 63 years. I failed this company. I failed our employees. I let personal friendship with Gerald blind me to his true nature. He looked around the room, then focused on me. I'm resigning, effective immediately. The room went quiet again. Then Martha spoke. We need leadership, real leadership. Someone who understands this company from the ground up, who has the respect of the employees, who's proven they can survive a targeted attack and still fight for what's right. She looked directly at me. I nominate our former sales champion as interim CEO, pending a full board vote. My throat went dry. I'm not sure I'm ready for that responsibility. Sophia smiled. You've just exposed a massive conspiracy, saved hundreds of jobs, and brought justice for a murdered colleague. I think you're more than ready. One by one, the remaining board members voiced their agreement. Within minutes, it was official. The man who'd been fired as a failure the day before was now running the company. But there was still work to do. Our first priority is damage control, I said, slipping into the role more naturally than I'd expected. We need to reassure our clients, stabilize our stock price, and most importantly, take care of our employees. I turned to Maya. Can you draft a company-wide announcement? Full transparency about what happened, minus the details that might compromise the FBI investigation. As the morning sun filled the boardroom, bathing everything in golden light, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. 24 hours ago, I'd been in handcuffs, my career destroyed, my reputation in ruins. Now I stood at the helm of the company I'd helped build. Gerald's arrest made national news within hours. The story of the sales champion who exposed a murderous corporate conspiracy captivated the public. Our stock initially dropped 12%, then rebounded to finish 15% higher as investors realized the company's fundamentals remained strong. 3 weeks later, I stood in my new office, the same one where Marcus had fired me. Gerald's trial was set to begin soon. He faced life in prison. The 3 board members had already pleaded guilty in exchange for reduced sentences. Chen Industries faced federal investigation and massive fines. James knocked and entered, now serving as our new CFO. The quarterly reports are in. Revenue is up 8%. Client retention is at 96%. He smiled. Turns out people like doing business with a company that values integrity. Maya followed him in, carrying a framed document. Thought you might want this for your wall. It was the email Gerald had sent to Marcus, calling me a failure. At the bottom, she'd added a new line. Failure redefined. Someone who refuses to compromise their integrity, even when it costs them everything. As they left, I walked to the window overlooking the city. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. For a moment, my heart raced, memories of that first threatening call flooding back. But when I opened it, I smiled. "Thank you for fighting for her, Patricia's daughter." Sometimes the worst moments in our lives aren't endings at all. They're beginnings. Gerald had meant to destroy me, but instead, he'd created his own downfall. He'd shown me that failure isn't falling down, it's staying down. And I had refused to stay down. The intercom buzzed. "Sir, there's a young employee here from accounting. Says his supervisor has been taking credit for his work. He's asking if you have time to hear his story." I thought about that morning when I'd walked into this building with my usual stack of contracts, unaware my world was about to shatter. Then I thought about all the employees who might be facing their own Gerald Reeves right now.